Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday, beautiful, beautiful Saturday, June 14th, for our sixth session of the free financial tracking for entrepreneurs, where we'll be covering Excel and Google Sheet topics. Today is the sixth class. We only have one more class to go. And today we're going to be covering advanced topics. So this, for the past six sessions, which happen every 2 weeks, we have discussed Google Sheets basics, Excel basics, charts and graphs, tables and pivot tables. And last session, we talked about formulas and functions. So right now, all of that we're going to be using to further comprehend the advanced topics that our guest facilitator, Tom Auger from the DeKalb County Library, will be working us through. And our final session, sadly, is June 28th, and that we will actually work on creating the documents, getting all the great information we've learned to create our Excel documents for what we need to effectively track our business revenue. So whether you're wanting to create a budget for your business, your income statements, your cash flow sheets, your balance sheets, or just a regular budget for your household, this was actually the class for you to attend. So we thank you and appreciate you for joining us and taking the time and prioritizing your business by joining us on such an early morning. And from this point, we will pass it over to Tom. Thank you so very much.
All right. Well, thank you, Alicia. All right. So at our second to last class, what we're going to do is we're going to take what we've learned and we're going to learn some advanced topics here. One of the things we're going to talk about today is conditional formatting. This, I wouldn't say necessarily is an advanced feature, but it can help you to visualize your data a little better. We're going to talk about creating an absolute reference in a cell. We're going to talk about working with multiple sheets. So let's say you have a worksheet where you have multiple things that are related to one another. I'm going to show you some ways that you can search between sheets, which is going to be very useful for hopefully for your business practices. We're going to talk about the PMT function so for example, if you're taking out a loan or if you're in the business of providing loans for people, you can figure out the interest rate. I find this to be useful because recently I had to take out a loan to pay for a new furnace and air conditioning unit. So I was able to figure out what I'm paying per month, if I pay a little extra, how quickly I can pay that off. So this is also a very useful tool as well too. And the last thing we're going to look up is something called the V lookup function. Okay. All right. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat for me, please. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen and give me 1 second here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to open up, this is going to be in Excel today. All right. Okay, so what I have here, this would be basically, we can see we have multiple worksheets, and we're going to, as I said, in a few moments here, we're going to show how we can work within this. So this is say pretend business, say it's a beverage distributor, okay? And they have you can see they have multiple accounts here. And right now for this part of the class, we're going to work within the orders tab. We're going to talk about in a minute on how we can organize our worksheets, because every time I click into here, this brings me into a new worksheet. Okay. So I click into here, I'm going to go back into the order worksheet. All right. So what we're going to look at first is what we call conditional formatting. So let's say, for example, I want to see the shipping. Well, let's do this. I want to look at the order amount. Okay. And I want to see, let's just look through here. I want to see anything that's going to be over $50. Okay. So what I could do is I could go through and look, for example, here is 58, 188, 109. But as you know, like once you start looking at numbers, and this is a pretty long worksheet, it can get a little mind numbing and you may miss some items. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go ahead and highlight the column. So what I did is I clicked onto E, and you can see now looking at going all the way through that it's highlighted. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is go into the home tab right here, which is the default tab. and I'm going to go over here to the styles section right here. I'm going to click on conditional formatting. Okay. And it brings up this dialog box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this one here that says highlight cell rules. And I'm going to go over and click greater than. Okay. And in here, it says right here, it says format cells that are greater than. I'm going to put in, let's just say 50 as a number. Okay. And you can see right here that it's everything over 50 is in red. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this thing in a second here, but I can also change the color and say if I wanted to do a red border, I could do that. If I wanted to do a green, you could basically do whatever color you want. Let's do for right now, let's go ahead and do a red text, okay? So I did 50. Whoop, my bad. Give me 1 second. Let me bring that back up. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And you can see now this, I can see any order that's over $50. All right. And let's say as an example, I want to see anything that's under, let's say $10. So I can do conditional formatting. I can go to highlight cell rules and I can click on yes, less than. Okay. So I want this now to be a different color because our first over 50 was with red. So let's go ahead and do, let's do yellow. Oop. Give me 1 second here. Let me clear that up for you. Give me 1 second here. All right, so it's not working the way. Give me 1 second here. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so we have the red is over 50. I'm gonna do conditional formatting, and we're gonna do less than, say 10. Okay.
So while
There.
you're doing that, Tom, we have a question.
Yeah.
So if I have a catering business and
Mhm.
I'm able to use this is this sort of more like a filter function that I am able to use to filter out repeat customers or first time customers? I guess that's a question. Is this sort of like using it as a filter?
I think it's a good question. I would say it's probably more of a visual aid, so you can basically see. Uh, so what you can look at a spreadsheet and see, for example, and you could do it too. You could for order amount, you could do conditional formatting for. I mean, you could I would say if you wanted to look at repeat customers, you could probably filter that out like we did last week. I would probably go with that route. I think
Okay.
this is more if I'm looking at this and I'm sharing with somebody or I'm displaying it for a group of people, here's the amount of orders we had over 50.
Oh, okay. So this is
Okay.
probably better with numbers, just with the numbers as opposed to filter. You can filter out different areas.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing we can do too, let me go ahead and, okay, I'm going to go ahead and clear these out. Second here. Okay. So I'm going to show you data bars. Let me go ahead and 1 second here. Oh yeah, so to clear it out, so what I can do now is, try it again. So I'm going to highlight the area. To clear it out, you go to clear rules, and it goes back to normal. I want to show you one other thing with this as well too, just one that you could do. So you could do another option would be you could do a gradient fill. Um, hold on. Let's go ahead and clear that out so we can see it a little better here. So another thing we can do, I'm going to highlight the whole area again. I'm going to show you we can do you can do a gradient fill. So you can see here that I kind of prefer the color one a little better, but you can see, for example, in your larger orders, how it's kind of getting bringing a little bit more color, and the bigger orders are bringing more color. I think my preference would be the color of the cell, but this kind of gives you an idea, like from a visual standpoint. probably can make some numbers stand out in a larger spreadsheet. So are there any questions about that? I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. Any questions? Okay. So what we're going to
I
do
didn't have a
now.
question, but me myself just want to make a
Yeah.
comment or observation. That when running a nonprofit, I think this also for other folks who may be doing a nonprofit, this I have never heard of the conditional formatting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried to wiggle my way around Google Sheets and Excel trying to figure it out. So I want to just say thank you for this,
Oh, you're
because as
welcome.
I see you doing that, this kind of helps me make it very helpful to find out which I want to say, I don't want to use the word filter because I don't want to get confused with it being the conditional
Right.
formatting. But I myself, just in the last 5 minutes, have found this is going to be very helpful at the end of the year reporting when
Mm-hmm.
we're we recognize all of our donors, but this will give us a great way to filter out those who've made donations over 250.
Yeah.
So I've been
Yeah.
trying to figure that out, and we've been going by line by line by line.
Right.
So I appreciate I appreciate
Yeah.
this.
You're welcome. And like I said, it's a very handy visual tool. And to your point, the County Public Library, we had a grant through AT&T to teach like just basic computer classes, and we had to have a certain amount. So to your point, I had to, because the person who was in charge of it, sadly, she passed away, and so I took her role over, and I'd have to go through. It was a nationwide grant, so there were several thousand library systems, so I had to learn how to I had to filter out our information. But even then, when I was adding up all the attendees for the classes, it kind of got it does get mind numbing when you're doing like you have about 100 entries and you're trying to keep track of the numbers. So this is just a kind of a handy tool so you can visualize your numbers a little better. And two, with that too, if you noticed, like when I was doing this, of course, when I'm doing this in practice, it's seamless, so there's never any problems. I had a couple of mistakes when I was doing it. The nice thing about Excel is when you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can simply either, use your back arrow to go back, hit the escape key to go out, or just try to remember your steps to go back out. So I always tell people too, for example, I work, I'm teaching Excel right now within the prison system. And I always tell the guys in the classes, they get really frustrated if they make a mistake. And I always tell them it's not the end of the world. Excel is very forgiving, and you just simply go back and redo your steps. Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about something within Excel called the absolute reference. Okay. And what this basically is, you basically, when you create an absolute reference, you're telling Excel to refer to one cell, and that cell is never going to move. Okay. And it's how to explain this. So if you remember from our formulas and functions class, when we copy and paste a formula, it thinks that you're asking it to jump line by line by line. So if I put a formula, for example, let me do this here. So let's say, for example, okay. So if I want to add, okay, if I want to see what let me just take a step here, make sure yeah, okay. So if I want to see what the order amount is with the flat fee, I want to do it for all the orders. I want to make sure this flat fee, because remember, for whatever reason, when we created the spreadsheet, we just put this flat fee up here. We did not put it in all these columns or all these cells in here. Just for whatever reason, we didn't do it. Okay. So I want to add up the order amount with the flat fee. I'm not going to worry about the shipping right now, but I want to add up the order amount with the flat fee. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, if you remember from our formulas and functions class, and we're going to review that in a minute, I'm going to create a very basic formula here where I'm going to ask, and I'm going to put an H2 right here. I'm going to tell Excel to add E2 and G2. So to do that, I'm going to put in an equal sign to start the formula. Now, if you remember from our formulas and functions class, we always start off either a formula or a function with an equal sign. Okay, so now we're indicating to Excel that we're gonna ask it to do a mathematical equation here. Okay, so this is a very straightforward formula. So once again, I'm just going to ask it to add E2. Okay, so I click on it, or I could write it in. I'm going to put plus. Okay, and I want to do G2, so I'll just go ahead and type it in. Okay, and we get 1557, which, you know, I'm not really great with math in my head, but that does look right to me. Okay, 1332 plus 225 is 1557. Okay, so if we remember, what I can do, I could go ahead and manually enter that same equation like G2 plus, what is that? E3, so on and so forth. And I would have to do that quite a bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my life a little simpler by copying and pasting the formula. Okay, so I go and click into the cell. I have my white cross. I go down to the bottom here. We have our black cross. Okay, so once again, that's telling me that I can now do what we call the autofill. So I'm going to hold down on my left mouse button. Okay, and it's just as I'm not going to do the whole sheet, but I'm just going to show you as an example here. I'm just going to do these first few. Okay, so I bring in the formula. So what do we see? Does that look right? Remember,
Yes.
I'm asking it to add the order amount to the flat fee. Okay, so clearly we look at this first, the E3, 5843, something's happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the formula and see what's happening is, as I said, when you do the autofill, it jumps, when you're doing that, it basically jumps lines for you, okay? Because it's instinctively thinking that you're asking it to add in all these columns, okay? But there's nothing here, right? So it's adding, as you can see, from clicking onto the formula, is adding E3, which is 58.43 in G3, and there's nothing here. The same thing with this, with the 188. As we can see from the formula that I copied, it's adding E4 and G4. There's nothing there. Okay, so how do we fix this? Okay, now we could go in manually and change it. Okay, so for example, I could just bring this up here. Second, let me clear these out. Now you would have the option to manually change it. So for example, let's just do this first one here. I could change it to G2. Okay, and enter, and it's correct. Okay, so if I only have a couple entries, I could do that, and it's not, you know, it's not super time consuming. But remember, if I were to do this whole spreadsheet here, we'd have about 75 entries, and that takes a long time. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go back and do this formula again. I'm going to create what we call an absolute reference, where I'm going to tell Excel that this, when we copy the formula, this line stays fixed. Okay, so to do that, um, what we can do is we're going to put a $sign in front of the our column, which is G. Okay, and then we're going to put a $sign in front of the row that we want to stay fixed. Okay, which is in this case is 2. All right. Then the other way we can do that too, and this usually works. So give me a second here. If you hit F4, it will do it as well too for you. Okay. And for some reason, when I do this in the class on my laptop, because I have a desktop right now, the F4 thing never works. But we'll go ahead and try this now. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, and it gives me 1557. Now let's look and see when I copy and paste this. Okay, you see now how we have, looks like we have some correct numbers. And let's go ahead and look in this first one, 6068. So what it's done is it's added up the 5853, and because this line is fixed now, it's adding in G2. The same thing with this one. Let's go ahead to just take a little further. Okay, and the same thing. You can see even down here, it's adding in E19 and it's adding G2. Okay, so the absolute reference then is kind of a handy tool when you want just to keep one cell fixed and not move ahead. So for example, if you have income, if you're looking at total income, let's say you add up all your income for your business and you have a list of expenses and you want to see where the percentages are for your expenses. You don't want to have to keep putting your income in for every role. You could fix the income cell, and that way then you could do, say, 30 different expenses and it would show you the percentages. Okay, so it's just a handy tool instead of having to go in row by row by row and edit the information, that you can keep this line fixed. Okay, so any questions about that?
No.
Okay, all right, let me go and clear these out. Won't do it for me here. Nope, give me 1 second here. So let me clear these out real quick here. Okay, give me 1 second here. So I think we're gonna have to go back into this row. Okay. So now we're going to talk about working with multiple sheets in a workbook. Let me get that out there. Okay. So as I said, this looks like to me would be a beverage distributor. Really could be anything, but we want to look at, so we have multiple worksheets and all these worksheets are going to be, it looks like related. We have orders here. We have orders by company. We have loans that we may have taken out. And then we have one distinct company right here. Okay, that we're all going to work with this. So how would I, and then I'm going to show you a way that we can work within all of these worksheets. Okay, so so let's pretend like we want to add a new worksheet. So to add a new worksheet, what you're going to do is you're going to click on to here, to that plus sign. You can see now it says sheet 1. All right. So what we can do. Okay. So if I want to rename the sheet, what I do is I right click onto the tab. You can see this option right here. It says rename. And I'm going to call it Arnold's. Okay. Then I hit enter. Okay. And you can see now that's created a new sheet. The other thing that we can do with sheets too is let's say if you're a visual person, you can give it a color. So tab color, for example, let's make it blue. Okay. Wait, that didn't work. Oh, give me 1 second. Okay. So you can see it's green. Let's say if your brain operates in that way, you could give it all different colors so you can see it a little easier. I think that might be useful if you had a bunch of worksheets. So you can also move them around as well too. Let's say if you created quarterly worksheets, but you did it in a way where maybe quarter 1 was here, quarter 3 was there, quarter 2 was there, and quarter 4 was over here. So you can move your sheets around too. So we can move. To do that, you click onto the sheet, the tab, I'm sorry. You right click, we go to move or copy. And here, for example, we could say we can move it to the end. You click OK, and then see it just bounces over. So it's just a way for you to kind of help visualize what you're doing. Okay, so what we're gonna do, okay. So Arnold's worksheet is blank right now. Okay, so we have nothing in that worksheet. So what I'm gonna do as an example is I'm gonna go into company orders. Okay, you can see right here at the top we have Arnold's. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste A1. Okay, so I'm just going to basically I'm copying everything for Arnold's. Okay, and I'm going to go over to C. Okay, now I'm going to go to copy up here, or I could hit Control C for a shortcut. Okay, I'm going to go back into the Arnold's tab. I'm going to paste this. So I'm going to click on paste. Let's see if this. It's a little harder for me to see because I'm sharing the worksheet. Does that look right? Make this a little bigger here. Let's see if that's right. Because sometimes when you're putting it in, let's just see if that's right. Okay, make it a little bigger. So with the paste thing, what you can do, and as I said, because it's a little hard for me because as I'm sharing my screen, part of my screen is blocked, but you can see right here, for example, it would show you how it's going to look. Okay. So you kind of want to have to, depending what you're copying, you have to format it a certain way. So you do have to play with it a little bit. Okay, so I have it in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, okay, so I'm going to go to B10, or sorry, B9. I'm going to type in total. Okay, because I want to figure out what the total amount is for the order amount. Okay. Um, I'm going to put this in C9. So if you remember from our formulas and functions class, we can do this one of two ways. So down here, because I want my order, my number to appear here, I'm going to create a function. Now, the difference between, as a reminder or as a refresher, the difference between a formula and function, they both add or subtract or create or do mathematical functions. A formula is when you're adding, say, you want to use a formula where you're adding maybe one or two cells. When we're looking at a range of cells, such as we have here, we want to do what we call a function, okay? So to do a function, I'm going to type an equal. Since we're adding it up, the formula for adding in Excel is sum. I'm going to put that in as I type it. You can see it's coming up. I'm going to have to put in brackets. Now the cells that I want to work with, in this case, it's B2, or I'm sorry, C2. Click on that. Oop, okay. So I want to do C2 through C8. So to let Excel know I want to do that range, I type in my beginning of my range, which is C2. I do a colon, okay, and then I'm going to type in C8, okay, and you can see here it's highlighted, okay, and then I'm going to close out the bracket, and then I'm going to hit enter, and we get $274.80. Okay, so what I'm going to do now instead, though, is I'm going to show you another way we can do that. I'm going to clear it out totally. So I have this highlighted. I'm going to highlight these rows. I'm going to go to my function tab. I'm going to go to auto sum and hit sum, and it does it there for me. Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, so I want to put this to in numbers because it didn't copy the way I wanted it to. So if you remember, to put it in numbers or to get a dollar sign, I'm going to go back to home, and then I'm going to click on number, and then it gives me dollar signs. Okay, all right, so we just make it look nice and neat. Okay, so I have the order amount for Arnold's for this whole company is $274.80. Okay, so I want to figure out now, just as an example, what the percentage of Arnold's sales are or orders are for this whole company, because it's like quite a few companies that we're working with. All right, so this is an example of how we can work within multiple worksheets. So I'm gonna click back into Arnold's worksheet, okay, in C10. I'm gonna start typing in a formula because I want to know now okay, so we have the order amount is 274, right? That's the amount of orders that Arnold's does with this company. I go back into the company order, I can see they have a total amount. Maybe this is for the month of or a week of $4,033. So I want to know what the percentage of Arnold's sales are for that. And I want to keep it in this spreadsheet. Okay. So to do that, what I can do is I'm going to type in C10 right here. I'm going to start typing in a basic formula. So I'm going to type in C equals C9, and the way we divide in Excel, we use the backslash. So I'm going to hit backslash. Okay. Now I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave it like this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to click back into the company orders. Okay. I'm going to click on the amount here, the $4,033.61. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter. Okay. And you can see right here, it says 7. So we're going to change that to a percentage. So 7%. Okay. So by clicking, you could see right here what the formula looks like. You could write it up by hand. I think it's far easier just to do what I did. But you can see what it did was we said C9, and then it went into the other worksheet. You can see right here in the single quote company orders. And there's an extra exclamation point, and then the cell C75. Okay, so that's an example of how we can take information from one worksheet and use information from another worksheet to create a formula to find information. And this is why too, it'd be when you're working with multiple worksheets, you have to name them. Okay, well, you should name them, but you have to give them a name that means something to you. Uh, so any questions about that? Nope. Okay. And once again, too, when you do that, 'cause when I was doing this, practicing with this, it was always sticking on me and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. Just remember you hit enter, and that's when you're telling Excel that you're done with that formula. Okay. All right. So, okay. So what we're going to do now, okay, so we talked about formulas and functions. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about what we call the PMT function. Okay. And the PMT function, it allows, as I was mentioning earlier, allows you to calculate the payment for a loan based on constant payments and constant interest rates. Okay. This function, if you were to do this, it would be in the uh, financial category of our formulas tabs right here. So we can go down, for example, we can do, see it's right here, PMT. Okay, so we're going to show how we can work with this. Okay, so what PMT function is it's rate. Okay, so rate is the interest rate. Let me go in here real quick here. Um, so the structure of the PMT function is it's based off the interest rate. Um, it's based off the total amount of payments for a loan. It's based off the present value, and then also based off the future value, and then the type. All right, so I'm going to show you an example of how this could work. I'm going to go into loans right here. Okay, you can see right here they have loan amount. Looks like this is done already. Length of loan in years, annual interest rate, and payments per year. Okay. So the loan was issued for $3,000. We pay back in 2 years, and an annual interest rate of 2.5. So we can figure out now, we don't know the monthly payment amount for this. Okay, so we can use the PMT function to figure this out. All right, so I'm going to click on cell H14. So give me a second to find that here because my eyes aren't working the way they want to today. So I'm going to click into the monthly payment amount. Okay. Then I'm going to click on the formulas tab, which I have open right here. Okay. I'm going to go back into the financial tab. I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to click on PMT. Okay. And now you can see this dialog box pops up. Okay. So what I'm going to do in the rate box, I'm going to put in H9. Then divide that by 12 because we're doing by 12 months. Okay. And the NPR box, NPER box, I'm going to type in H13. Okay. In the PB box, I'm going to type in H7. And then I'm going to hit OK. And let's see what happens. Okay. So it tells me now that my monthly payment amount is going to be $128.28. All right. So let's go back over that again. So I was telling it when I put it in, I put the loan amount in, and I was dividing it by 12. Okay. So 12 payments per year. And so that would show me that I would have 24 total payments at $128.28. All right, so this would show you. So, for example, if you're taking on a business loan or a loan for whatever reason, it's kind of a handy tool so you can figure out what you think your payments would be. Because I know, I mean, I'm sure all of us have bought a car at some point and had to pay the car off, or you're paying on lease payments. So it's always kind of handy to know roughly what it's going to be, what your interest rate might be. Depending on, you can kind of look at how interest rates are going, and you can kind of get a sense of what your payment's going to be. Because I'm sure a lot of you, like myself, have gone in to get a car, and then you find out that it's going to be way more expensive than you thought. Or, you can kind of get over that sticker shock early on by finding out, like I had to got my truck about 5 years ago. Only have about 4 more payments on it, thank God. But I had to kind of use something like this to figure out roughly what my payments are going to be, so I didn't get, so I knew if I was ready to, if we could afford to get that car at that given time with our expenses during the month. All right. So any questions about the PMT? Okay. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the VLOOKUP function. Okay. So the VLOOKUP function is located in the lookup and reference. So let me go back to the home tab. So once again, I'm going to click on the formulas. And I think I mentioned when we did our formula and function class a couple of weeks ago that there are literally thousands of formulas that one could use in Excel. Okay. So the VLOOKUP is in lookup and reference. Click down, you can see right here. We can access it through here. So what the VLOOKUP function does, it allows you to search for something in a table or arrange by row by looking for a value in the leftmost column of a table and return the value in the same row. And in other words, it allows you to look up numbers within a spreadsheet. Okay. So I'm going to click on VLOOKUP, bring it up here, and you can see this is how, when I click on it, this is how it's structured. So based off lookup value, and that's the value you're looking for. Okay. Table array is the data range used to search for the lookup value. So you're basically telling it in what spreadsheet, what cells am I trying to find this value in. Okay. The colon index number, that's the number of table array is related to the, and I'm going to show you how this looks in a second. Okay. And the range lookup, if you're looking for certain numbers, do you want to find the closest match or an exact match? If you want to find the closest match, we're going to type in true. As I said, we are going to do an example of this in a second here. If we want to find an exact match, we want to hit false. Okay. Okay. So we're going to demonstrate the VLOOKUP function using Paul's beverage again. Okay. So I'm going to cancel all this. I'm going to click in Paul's beverage. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to click on cell C3. Okay, and then I'm going to we're going to look up and reference, and we're going to do a couple of examples of this. So I'm going to do we're going to propose the beverage, and I'm going to open up a new spreadsheet, and we're going to use an example in there. So we're going to click on C3, and then we're going to go to lookup and reference, and we're going to click on VLOOKUP, and once again we get this dialog box. I'm just going to move it over so I can see these numbers a little better. Okay. Okay, so in the lookup value, I'm going to put in A3. Okay, so I can click on it if I want to, or I can type it in. All right, and then, okay, I'm going to hit enter. Oh, my bad. Give me 1 second. Jumped ahead. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Clear that out. Okay, do this again here. I'm going to go to VLOOKUP. Okay, I'm going to type in A3. Okay, in the table array box, I'm going to type in, okay, click on orders tab. Okay, let me move this over so I can copy these. So we're going to copy this whole spreadsheet here. Let's see if this works. Okay. Okay, you can see it's in right here. Um, the colon index number. 1 second here. I'm going to type in 8. Okay, and this tells Excel that I'm looking for the total that will be found in the 8th column from the left. Okay, and it should, hold on. I'm going to put in range lookup. I'm going to put in false because we want to find a range. Let's see if this works. Oop, doesn't really want to work for me. Let me show you another example here. Okay, it should be 442, but for some reason that didn't work. So let me do another example here. So I'm going to open up this one. Okay, let's try this one. So I'm going to go to our activity sheet. I apologize. We have not been doing the activity sheet for this class, but I'm going to show you. Okay, we're going to show you a different example here. So this is a vehicle order list. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on cell D2. Oop, try that again. I'm going to close this one out. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. So you should be able to see that now. So I'm going to click on D2. I'm going to open up the VLOOKUP function. So I'm going to go to function here and go to VLOOKUP. Okay. The lookup value, I'm going to type in B2. Okay. So I'm telling it to look up vehicle number 678. Okay. And the table array box, I'm going to type in, make an absolute reference for J2, which is going to be over here. Okay. This is going to be the ID number, the vehicle ID. So I'm going to type in, okay. All right. So what I've told it to do is basically, I know you can't see P2. Let me move this over. So we created an absolute reference. So I'm asking it to look through J2 through P2, and that's the range we're looking for. Okay. We're asking it to search through. Okay. And okay, give me 1 second here. And okay, I'm going to put in 1 for the colon index number. And then I'm going to hit OK. Oops, let's try that again. Give me 1 second here. It's not wanting to work for me today. So let me try this one more time. Do lookup reference. Do VLOOKUP. Okay. Type in B2. Okay, let's see if this works now. One. Let's see if that works. Okay. So the price in that tells me by looking it up. So I'm looking up the number, and it's good. The price is going to be 678. All right. So that kind of gives you an idea. We're kind of using it to look up a range of prices. So it didn't quite go as smoothly as I thought with the VLOOKUP, and I apologize for the first example. But that's how you would look up, kind of use the VLOOKUP. It does take some practice. Let me try it one more time with our other spreadsheet and see if we can't get it to work. So give me 1 second here. Save that. Okay. Go to the tab, but give me 1 second here. Okay. Let me try it one more time and see if we can't get it to work. Okay. I'm going to click on Paul's Beverages again. Okay. Now in C3, do the click on the formulas and reference again. Look up a reference with a VLOOKUP. Okay. I'm going to type in A3 in the lookup value again. Try it one more time. Okay. Table array. Okay. 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 So I think what is going on, I think we should have, I apologize, we should have had, okay, thank you. 1 second here. I got you. Give me 1 second. Okay. I think if we had added, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, something's going on with Excel right now, but if we had added basically, come on, try it now. Yeah. So it's not letting me in, but I think if we had added up all the total amounts for the orders, then we could do it. But it kind of gives you an idea of how you can, even though it did not work the way I wanted it to, it kind of gives you a sense of how it would kind of operate. Do you have any? I know it didn't go the exact way we wanted it to, but does anybody have any questions about that? No. Okay, so that's basically what we have for today. As I said, you have your activity sheet, so you could practice with that at home if you wanted to. So I really appreciate everyone's time. I apologize. Sometimes things don't go quite the way we wanted to with Excel, and for some reason it got hung up on me. It didn't want to work the way I wanted it to. But next time in our last class, maybe we can go back over that very quickly and see if we can't get it to work properly. All right. So any
One
questions?
question. Are there any
Sure.
additional, one question is, are there
Mhm.
any additional resources that you would recommend that we look up to work on? Do you have any resources that you could
Yeah.
share?
Yeah.
Do plan on going back to review these videos to make sure
Hmm.
I do step-by-step guide. But aside from the worksheets you have given and this video, are there any additional
Yeah.
resource
So
links that you can recommend?
yeah, so the Public Library Association puts out, and I'll send this to you in a link. Let me put it in the chat real quick. Um, um, it's training.digitalliteracy.org, and that's the URL. And this is put out by the Public Library Association. It's free, and it's a series of classes. Some of the worksheets we've been using come from that. The downside is that it's from Windows 2010. So they have not updated it, but it does give you some lessons if you want to do some worksheets and do some practicing. It's a very good source. And as I said, it's 100% free.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Training digital literacy.
Yeah. Am I still
We'll make
sharing?
sure we send that out to in the follow-up email as well
Yeah.
to make sure folks have the worksheets as well as this additional resource. So
Yeah.
thank you, Tom. This was
Thank
actually
you.
a little a bit more complicated, but very, very
Right.
helpful. Like
Right.
last session, I found the formulas and function very helpful because that'll help with adding up the
Yeah.
actual sales. But this, I really liked this particularly the first one that where you can, what is the word again? Not filter, but
A conditional formatting.
the conditional formatting
Yeah.
that helps with locating certain values and stuff. So that was very helpful. And I hate it
Yeah.
didn't really work as good, but we definitely got the gist of it. So I figured out and got the gist. And I think once I'm gonna
Okay.
actually review it again myself and do the homework and the worksheet
Yep.
and go through it again. So I think it'll be very easy. So thank you
Okay.
very much. We have
Thank you.
one more Saturday with you, which is not this Saturday coming up, but June 28th is our last session. And with that session, we will be creating documents. So before we go, can you just give us a little gist of what kind of documents we may be creating on June
So
28th?
you can do whatever you want. If you want to do like a budget worksheet, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
do
I need to do an income statement. So that's
the
probably what
income
I'll be doing.
statement, orders, like customer lists, anything we worked with, like remember we did tables, we did charts and graphs, we did,
Mm-hmm.
you know, creating formulas for budgets. So anything you want to do, as much as you want to do, go ahead and create something, and we can all look at it and see how we can work with it.
Oh, so it's gonna be like our homework to do that and share it.
Exactly. If
Okay.
you want to, yeah.
Okay. And
Okay.
so we will definitely have those worksheets um in time, and we'll make sure we send those out. So again, the same link that you all use to join this event is the same link you can use for the last session on June 28th, or you can re-register to get the link again. So we
All right.
thank you so very much. We will get this posted. I'll try to go ahead and get it posted today. So if you are at home today and you're working on stuff and you need this link, we'll try to get it out and on our YouTube page by 5 today. Thank
All
you
right.
so very much, Tom.
So I have to run because we have our voting machines coming in for Tuesday's
Okay.
election. So I got to go talk to
All
some
right.
people. But you have a good
Thank
morning.
you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right.